Diego Cordovez.
Adam Schoenfeld.
Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. And we had Andrew Robl on last week, and he had a lot of very good insights and talked to us about playing high stakes online and live, and we're going to continue with him.
Let's do it.
And if you missed part 1, look for it on Card Player TV.
And now, you're not affiliated with a training site right now?
No,
Are you going to do it?
I'm thinking now, I have offers from a lot of training sites, and I'm probably going to do one. Like, in the past, I didn't do one because, A, what they were paying, I would make more money per hour playing poker than I would. So, it would cost me money to actually make a video.
Direct opportunity cost.
And then, also there was a lot of other things that were going to hurt me. But I don't think either one of those things is really true anymore. Kind of what they're paying the top tier coaches has gone up, and what I'm making in poker per hour has probably gone down as the games have got tougher.
When you talked about books, what books were influential for you when you first started to play?
I read a lot of, I read every book out there. That Theory of Poker was pretty good, just to get you thinking, about the right sorts of concepts and wow, this is what I'm supposed to be thinking during a poker hand. Because, when you first start playing, you really don't know, what's going on, what type of thought process you're supposed to have. And then, Super System, I thought the No Limit Hold'em section, especially in 2004, before there was any, real poker strategy out there, I thought that was very good. And then later on, I thought, the Harrington on Hold'em books were good, solid books.
The funny thing about Super System is that he wrote that in the mid-'70s.
Right.
And, it's 30 years later, and it's still, obviously things have changed, but it's still valuable, that book.
Yeah, no, it's still super valuable, and the idea of, it's just comical how far ahead Doyle Brunson was of all his contemporaries. He's still ahead now with that stuff.
Right.
In the 50s and 60s and 70s, playing with
I cannot even imagine, how much better he was back then than everyone else.
Well, that's why when Doyle talks, he had 55 winning sessions in a row.
Yeah, and nowadays, it's impossible.
Right, it would be impossible. You could be a great player and you're still going to be losing many sessions.
Right. Especially in the big games now, the best players in the world for Patrik and Phil Ivey, and Phil Gelfand and Tom, they probably won 55 to 60%. I was going to say 55 to 60.
Yeah. Number.
Right, and they're happy with that.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you're gearing back into poker, getting ready for the World Series. Are you going to play a full slate?
No, I'm actually not. Last year, my game started to go downhill. I would play every day. I'd go play the tournament, bust out of the tournament, either go home and play online or go do the Bellagio and play in cash games. And I think my game definitely started to drop after a while. I just was not in the mental state to play. So this year, my current plan is I'm just basically not going to play any of the tournaments. I'm just going to, I'm not going to chase the fame and the glory, and I'm just going to, try to make a lot of money.
Trying to make money.
So when you say you're gearing up for the World Series, you just mean the World Series time when a lot of people are in town?
Yeah, there's going to be I think the World Series action picks up live, and for whatever reason, I think it also picks up online, in the big cash games at least.
That's definitely true, because that's when people are really into what's going on in poker and just spurs interest.
And, and they're out here for the tournament or whatnot, and they want to keep gambling.
Right. Well, a lot of people, we don't think about it because we're here, but a lot of people come into town, and when they're not playing, they figure, well, I might as well play.
Not playing the tournament, right.
They want something to do, so they'll play online if that's the available game.
Andrew, you're involved with a product called Player GPS, which I just tell me what that is, because I have an idea, but it sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it just came out, and it's basically a program. You can make your buddy list online, and you can add your favorite pros or your favorite players you play with or whatnot. And then whenever they sign in and start playing on Full Tilt or Poker Stars, you get a text message to your phone or an email. So, if you always like watching a certain player play, or there's a player you really like playing with, you can put them on your buddy list.
I was going to say,
so diplomatic.
More likely the latter.
Yeah.
You just have a little pin that you stuck on some sucker's car. He doesn't even know as he drives around that you're keeping track of his movements.
That's one way to look about it, but I don't think that's really kosher to talk about.
Now, we can find this at playergps.com?
Yes, playergps.com, and it's currently free right now. It's in testing stages still, so you can try it out.
And will it eventually be just pay once, or is it going to be a subscription service?
It's going to be a subscription service, probably, depending on the stakes you play. For the small stakes games, $20 to, if you're playing 10, 20 and bigger, maybe $200 a month.
D, you were saying earlier when we were talking, you think that's a good idea, right?
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I certainly espouse game selection as a key factor. I mean, it makes a huge difference in your earnings, and knowing who the good players are and tracking.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this is a shortcut to what everyone should be doing, which is looking for certain opponents.
For sure, it's just going to make it, way easier to game select and whatnot, and which can definitely, help professional poker players. Like, in general, I don't think, it would be better, if tools like this did not exist for the game as a whole, but that's just, unrealistic.
We can't control that. They're going to exist, so you might as well, be associated with the good tools.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and now the fact is that statistics exist where, people do track how they're doing, how other people are doing. So this is just a shortcut to that. It's not new information. It's just information about what people are playing.
The thing about online poker is it's definitely a public realm. Like, all the games are out there for people to watch, and now there's databases saying who's winning and who's losing, and I don't think it's good for the game. I mean,
I think that the database, the fact that the databases exist is terrible for the game.
Yeah.
But it's just
terrible.
a fact we have to deal with.
It's terrible for everyone because people that win, they don't want everyone to know how much they win or how strong they are as far as attracting opponents. People that lose are embarrassed that they've lost, and they don't want everyone to know how much they've lost or their wives to know or whatever. So
and I think,
on every level, it's
I think
a
that's
bad
the
thing.
biggest problem. Is people berate the losing players at the table. They're like, oh, blah, 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 look at the database.
You're negative 143,000 this month.
Yeah,
or
and
great.
That's the single worst thing anyone could do, but they still do it.
Or and I mean, the people who are the big losers in poker, I mean, they're not dumb people. They're extremely successful, way more so than any, professional poker player is.
Right.
And it's just they're playing for fun, and and if you're making a living off of them, it's just so stupid to me.
Why start waving your arms?
Yeah. I mean, there's this is old school, but Brunson wrote in a book years ago about playing with a doctor, and the doctor had made some poor call, and people were just berating him, like, look at this idiot or whatever, even though, of course, this guy made 10 times as much as anyone else, and if someone had had a heart attack there, they'd be looking to him like he could save his life.
Right.
And even now, I mean, again, you're berating someone who he can afford to lose because he's probably successful in some other endeavors.
And I think Doyle said just because the guy is the loser at the table doesn't make him a fool, and in fact many times they're anything but a fool. So the behavior, of course, is another big problem.
And that's you look at the market cap of poker and how much money is won and lost at the poker tables, and you compare that to what happens in the pit, and it's 1/100th of action in the pit.
Minute.
And the reason is, most of these big gamblers, guys who would really enjoy playing poker and they like to gamble and whatnot, people make them feel like idiots, and it just
That's a really good point. Just look at how the casino treats the big losers.
Yeah,
they treat them like kings.
This is the
and
obvious
poker
thing,
players would do better to take that attitude.
Guys come into town knowing they're going to lose money, but they're going to have fun, and the casino sends a limousine and pumps them up and makes them feel important and tries to make them as happy as and congratulates them when they win because they know that in the long run they're not. And they sit at the poker table, and when they do suck out and win the one pot that they're going to win in a losing session, people tell them, look at you idiot, go into that.
And it's really true, and it makes me extremely uncomfortable. Especially in the mid-stakes games in the casinos, 10, 20, and 25, 50. I see that a ton, one guy will just be playing for fun and whatnot and drinking and all the regular net grinders who are there every day, they're berate them, and whenever they win a hand, they're whisper to each other. And it's do they really just want to sit there every day and play against each other? I don't understand the attitude.
This is a point you made before. I mean, when I started playing, it was no limit, and in contrast to limit hold'em, in no limit you can build a whole game with one guy who's a bad player, which is a lot harder to do in limit. In no limit, you've got one guy who has deep pockets and who's a poor player. 7 other guys can win. So if you chase that guy away, what are you going to do?
And also, and the thing is, all of these internet, I say internet players, I'm an internet player myself. But
it's not a pejorative.
They're just so focused, they're so analytical in their thinking and so good, and they're all EV, EV. And that, is smart if you want to be a professional gambler. You have to take plus EV situations. But no one wants to gamble with someone, who is only going to gamble when it's to their benefit.
Of course.
They're not going to give any action, blah, blah, blah. And, online, no one knows who anyone is. So, you can get away with that, but if you want to start playing in the really big games and whatnot, and if you're just going to be like a nit and not fun to be around,
right?
Like you're not going to last.
Part of creating a plus EV situation is to create the light gambling atmosphere, as opposed to making it like a terrible grind and a death march.
And and gambling with other people, giving other people a gamble sometimes.
And for sure, and for the people who don't win in the long run, they're just playing for fun and a fun atmosphere. And if you're just like, sitting there with your headphones and sunglasses and staring at them and not talking and berating them, I mean, it's just, it's not good. Like, first off, you're not going to be having as much fun. No one's going to be having as much fun, and it's just not a sustainable situation.
Right, you don't talk at all, but when you do talk, it's only to berate someone.
Yeah.
It's like, I thought that guy didn't talk, but all of a sudden he jumped up and insulted me.
Yeah. Now, Andrew, you're known for some of your prop betting. Are you still into that, or are you cutting back on that?
I mean, I'm still into prop betting, not really for the stakes I used to prop bet for, but now a lot of the bets I make will be bets to like improve my life. Like I'll have bets where I like with another friend of mine who I really trust, where we have to work out every day, and if you don't work out, you owe someone $200. Something I've kind of drifted away from the degenerate gambling prop bets.
The living in a bathroom kind of. That's sensible.
Yeah.
Maybe this is part of the whole process. I mean, it's funny that people think about a whole new generation, online, internet poker. At the end, it's the same thing. Go through the same same evolution.
Well, I think
same maturation, same ups and downs.
I think you have to learn some lessons on your own, I mean, no matter what you're told, you just don't believe it.
People now, I mean, I compare sounding like an old timer, but starting to play.
You're not just sounding like an old timer.
Being an old timer, starting to play almost 20 years ago. The generation that just has started playing the last 5 years is so much more sophisticated, more educated, more intelligent, but it's still gambling. You still have to go through the same pains. You still go through the same, same examples, and you learn from them the hard way, and you deal with them.
Yeah, and I think what you said is I think the people in poker now are probably smarter than they were 20 years ago, at least analytically and logical thinking and whatnot.
More sophisticated for sure.
Yes, more sophisticated, but also they're so young now, like myself included, they're going to make a lot of mistakes in, other areas of their life, especially the people who are really successful, and it's, a pattern I've seen in myself and a lot of other people. Because they have all this money and everything, and they just they don't have any training on how to deal
really
with
young, tons of money, and not a lot of experience at having that.
Well, before even poker players a lot of them had gambled in other other areas and kind of dealt with all the ups and downs of just gambling in general as preparation. So that had hardened them in terms of just life. One thing before you go, one hand that we'd read about online that I thought was awesome to anyone who really understands poker is a hand you played in the cash game in Australia, pot limit Omaha against Patrik Antonius.
Yeah.
And as people have seen, a lot of times when it's a huge pot, you run it multiple times, 2 times or 3 times to kind of cut down on the variance. In this case, you ran it 4 times. Tell us the hand. For people that didn't read about it, I think it's awesome.
Okay, I've got to let you know. But like I was saying before about EV, well, I decided, I was playing in this game in Australia and whatnot, and before the game was going, the game was having a hard time taking off. There was a lot of bickering, some people who were supposed to play in the game didn't end up showing up, and, it was kind of a situation where no one wanted to play, some people only wanted to play pot limit Omaha, and they told it was going to be a PLO game, some other people only wanted to play Hold'em. So we ended up, to get the game going, we decided to play half and half. And before this, I had played maybe 5,000 hands of pot limit Omaha.
You just jumped into these mega stakes.
It was a small game, so I figured it was reasonable.
Was the game having trouble getting started just because it was not obviously plus EV for anyone, where just all the good players showed up and none of the bad players showed up?
Well, the thing is, the game started off with Patrick and Tom playing heads up, and
hoping to attract more customers.
And no one really wanted to jump in with Patrick and
Tom opened the store, and surprisingly, no one wanted to shop.
Right.
Yeah.
What were the stakes?
On the game, it was 501,000 Australian dollars, which, at the time was maybe 80 cents on the US dollar. Mm-hmm. So 400 to 800 yen.
Okay.
So just run us through the hand.
Yeah, okay, the hand is I've been losing at this point. I'm like bought in for 200K, and I'm probably down to like 125K. And Patrik opened from the cutoff. It was folded to me in the small blind, and I had ace, queen, queen, jack. I believe one suit to the ace.
Okay,
Yeah.
good hand.
Yeah, it's a very strong hand. So I repotted, and he called. The flop came ace 7-3 with one spade and two diamonds, and I bet the pot at this point was probably like.
You didn't have a flush draw. You
don't have diamonds, right?
No, I have a backdoor flush draw and top pair.
Right.
So I bet he raised, and I got it in.
Now, what was your? I mean, before dealing out all the cards, what was your thought process there? Just that he's very aggressive, because obviously your hand is not a real strong hand.
Well, I thought I was stuck.
Or at that. That's what you just weren't willing to give up.
I appreciate your honesty. You were stuck and you had top pair.
Yes, I had top pair.
And Patrik had some kind of super wrap and three-way draw or something.
He had a wrap with a flush draw, like a super wrap with a flush draw.
And
did you run the equities?
Yeah, what's the equity on this?
Yeah, I mean, I was I was ahead. He was drawing. I had top pair. I don't see what the big deal is.
He got in all in with a draw.
He's just drawing.
Yeah. So you ran it 4 times.
Yes.
And he probably won 3 of them, given the equities.
No, he won none of them. So.
I mean, what was the? I don't know if it's on camera or not, but what was his reaction to going 0 for 4 in this situation? Disbelief.
Yeah, it was. Well, first when he saw my hand, he couldn't believe I got it in with him, and then
So there's already one level of disbelief.
Yeah, and I mean, I know Patrik, and I was pretty good friends with his past assistant, and I'm good friends with his current assistant. So I'd been hanging out with him some that week, and. He's Patrik Antonius. He has, $20 million in the bank. Yeah. He wasn't that
He took
upset.
it in good humor.
He's always, when he's taken these crazy beats online, he's always been not on TV, he's always been super level-headed about it.
Yeah.
No doubt, watching him in the high-stakes poker and all that, he's very calm. He doesn't whine about it. And I wouldn't imagine that he would. But it would still just be amazement, because he's smart enough to appreciate just the odds involved. In not winning any of the 4 times that you run.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, he was in disbelief, and I was actually talking to his golf coach the other day, who and he was like, "Yeah, me and Patrik still talk about that hand all the time."
Now that you've played a lot more, you can even appreciate even more just the craziness of it, of getting all the money in. And
yeah, I mean, I knew at the time how lucky I was to win all 4.
Right.
I mean, of course, but it kind of felt like a dream, like a little bit surreal.
Well,
but,
that's how people end up being addicted to the pot limit Omaha.
Yeah,
one hand like that, they play the rest of their lives.
Yeah, so it definitely sparked my interest in the game.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you. We conclude on that amazing story.
Excellent.
Much success to you. Hopefully, some more hands like that, and good run during the World Series and all the cash games and such. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it was great to be here. It was a good interview.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop. Brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Write to us at The Scoop at cardplayer.com.